Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Blake Treinen is now available. First questions from Alanna Rizzo. Go ahead.
Hi, Blake. Good afternoon, and congratulations for advancing to this round. How do you plan for the Atlanta Braves? What's your game plan?
Well, I think it's just more of the same. Try to stay consistent with what has made me successful this year, trusting the game plan that the Dodgers put forth, executing, and just not trying to make too much of a situation. I think if anything that we've all learned is just knowing our role, knowing our spots, and just executing what we do really well. For me, my pitch selection, it's being aggressive and getting ahead of guys and letting my defense work. So probably not going to overthink it more than that.
You had mentioned knowing your role and executing. In a 7-game series, Blake, in which there are no days off, how much more important does that become, making sure you do execute when called upon?
Well, I think I don't know if you put any more emphasis on it. It's just every game in the playoffs is important. Every pitch is important. Daniel Murphy, I remember my first playoff experience where I actually had a chance to play in DC in 16 against the Dodgers, was always talking about every out is emphasized, every error is blown up even more because outs are even more so important in the playoffs. And so I think just knowing what you need to do and be good at it, and not just good but great, and if everybody on your team takes care of that department for themselves, then good things will happen. So I don't think you can worry about 7 straight because everybody's having to deal with it. If you focus on it, then potentially you get wrapped up in it instead of the game itself.
Have you allowed yourself to take a moment and realize how successful your bullpen has been already in the 5 games you guys have played in this postseason?
Yeah, I feel like we've done a pretty solid job. I know that Padres team is really good, and having a playoff setup where every divisional round is a division rival is kind of an interesting, and I don't know, it's kind of weird, everybody having to play somebody they've played already 10 times that year. So the fact that both teams have seen each other as many times as we have, pretty sure I faced the same 4 or 5 hitters, some of them 8 times this year, and other guys minimum of 5. So I'm thankful for getting out. Sometimes they were loud, that last series, but when you see somebody enough times, like, there has to be some familiarity and comfort with facing them. And I'm thankful that I was able to do my job. And I think you see just, I guess, the grit involved with our pitching staff going out and competing against a really good lineup that San Diego runs out there, and kind of a transformed lineup to an extent because we only saw that new lineup, 1 series late in the year. I think our guys did a great job, and we still got a lot of guys that are really fresh in the bullpen. So I think we're in a pretty good position as long as we take care of our own part.
Great. Thanks so much, and good luck.
Yep. Thank you.
Next question is from Dave Vassay. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake, do you feel like it's a big advantage for your pitching staff that you haven't seen these Braves hitters? They haven't seen you this year?
Probably as much of an advantage as any team at this point, because the only teams we faced are divisional or, the counterpart of our division in the American League. So I think, again, it can be an advantage. It can, be an advantage for them as well. I think as long as we just go out there and execute, I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but you can't. I'm personally just not going to put too much thought into, are they going to have an advantage against me, or are we going to have an advantage? Because I don't want to be complacent and in my preparation, and I don't think anybody here is. So for us, we're just going to continue to drive home what makes us successful. And, I know they have a good game plan, whether it's repeating what we've done all year, or if there's a couple of tweaks we make, who knows? So, that'll all kind of play itself out as these games unravel.
David said that the 9th inning isn't always going to be Kenley's. So how does that change things for you and the rest of the bullpen?
when the phone rings and my name is called, then I'll throw. I'm not too worried. I think, the cool thing is all of us have thrown meaningful outs. And in a shortened season, I think anything from the 6th inning on kind of feels like it could potentially be a closing situation. So whatever role, whatever inning, whatever matchup, Dave is going to run us out there for, I think anybody in that bullpen is prepared and ready for it.
Thank you.
Next question's from Rowan Kavner. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake, having been in that Texas bubble now for a little while, is it starting to feel any more like home at all, just seeing that same field every day?
I mean, yes and no. No, because LA's got some of the best fans out there, and they run deep. There's a ton of them. The stadium's huge in LA. I think there's a lot of situations, even in this year, that playing in LA didn't even feel like a home field advantage because you don't have the Dodger faithful out there screaming for you. So I know players all across the league would probably share that sentiment with me. I look at Texas. This is a beautiful ballpark. The staff here is phenomenal. The facilities, you really can't compare to too many ballparks in this league. So to say it feels like home, there's a familiarity to it, but it doesn't feel like a home game, no.
And then this just being your first year with the team, I'm just kind of curious what you've thought about, seeing guys like Gonsolin and May and Julio, for the first time, and your opinion on just how they've been able to handle this transition from starting to relieving and, not really knowing what the role is going to be.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to see Julio pitch a little bit in the past. I hadn't really seen anything from Dustin or Gonsolin, mainly just because they were maybe pretty raw last year. They got a taste in September, maybe a little earlier. But seeing them on a day-to-day basis, I think what they have here in LA is pretty special with the young arms, not just for this year and the end of this season now that we push, towards the goal of a World Series. I think next year and in years to come, this organization is set up with really good starting pitching, and it's kind of a testament to the front office and the people who draft and develop. And half the battle is keeping guys healthy, and they've got a great staff in play to do that.
Next question is from Jorge Castillo. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake, you guys are going to be playing in front of fans for the first time tomorrow. Just wondering how you feel about that. Is it going to be weird, exciting? How would you describe it?
Definitely exciting. I think it's a step back towards some normalcy where people have the right to be free and make a choice to go out and do what they want to do. They want to come to a ball game, come to a ball game. I know we've all certainly welcomed it, and we're excited for it. It's not fun playing baseball without fans. Life in general right now is just so crazy, and I think people just want to get back to living in the land of the free, So the freedom to go and buy a ticket, we welcome it. We are excited for it, and it might be a little bit weird, having people in the stands actually cheering for you instead of an audio drown out. So I really don't care if it's going to add adrenaline or if it feels the same, or if I think, this doesn't feel like a normal fan. I'm just excited that people are going to be back in the stands.
And pitching here at Globe Life, does it allow you to be maybe a little more aggressive, just knowing that fly balls tend to die here?
Again, I feel like there's been a lot of questions today just based on how do you attack certain guys? How do you play the ballpark? Those are all external factors that I don't think you worry too much about from my perspective. My goal is to see a game plan, find a hitter's weakness, and then go attack it and pitch to my strengths. So I'm not going to worry about how the ballpark plays. We've got great defenders, Gold Glove defenders all around me. So, and I'm gonna pitch and trust that we're all going to be on our A game, and for the most part, we usually are.
Thank you.
Next question's from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead.
Blake, it wasn't all that long ago that you were in the NL East facing the Braves a little more often. What do you remember about their lineup, and what do you think has allowed them to kind of take a leap forward and become an elite offense now?
Well, some of the guys that I faced for a majority of the time there are gone. Dansby was new. I think I faced him maybe a handful of times in 17. And, Freeman, I do remember in DC, nobody could get it. He was kind of like the Achilles to the Nats organization. You always saw him at his best. And he's one of the great hitters in this game that, in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit for what he does. And I faced Marcel. He's a phenomenal talent. He's a great fastball hitter. There's a lot. I've faced Duvall when he was in Cincinnati. There's a lot of guys I have faced, not as fresh in my mind or, thrown against them in recent terms. But, to compare, familiarity with them in the past to now, so many things change from year to year. And adjustments are made or tweaks are made or approaches are made. And it's like, I can't go in and say, oh yeah, I've had success against this one individual, so just keep doing what I'm doing or what I did then, because it doesn't necessarily play. The thing is I'm going to go back to it. We're going to have really good scouting reports on these guys. They do a good job of getting information into our scouting, and we're just going to go with that game plan.
Thanks, Blake.
Yep.
Next question is from Scott Braun. Go ahead.
Hey, Blake, good to see you. I got two for you. One on Kenley, because, just like most guys, you've had highs and lows. You've been able to bounce back from the lows. So what have you observed from Kenley battling through it, and what advice has helped you to get through those times?
Well, battling or, whatever somebody's opinion is on it, I think you see the competitive side of him. Nobody wants to not be what they perceive as their cleanest. I think Kenley has had pockets of absolute dominance this year, and then he's had times where he doesn't feel great, but he still goes out and gets 3 guys out and punches 2 dudes out. And we've all had our ups and downs. I think this team, we win when Kenley's in. We need Kenley to be Kenley, and he will be. So I've gone through my lows. It's hard to ask me because I was a closer for 2.5 years, maybe 2 years, and this guy's done it for like 10. So, we've talked a little bit, but more as like friends and teammates. I don't really feel, too big on sharing those conversations, but Kenley's good. He's going to be fine for us, and regardless of the scenario of when anybody throws or if he throws a 9th or not, like Kenley wants to win. Like, he's a competitor, he's a Dodger, he's committed to this organization, and nobody doubts that. It's like Kenley will be just great for us.
I got time for one more. Go ahead, Dylan.
Hi, Blake. Kind of looking back to 18, I know, your usage was kind of crazy there, not just in terms of games pitched, but also, multi-inning appearances and stuff. And I was just kind of wondering, when you met with the Dodgers this past offseason, what was kind of maybe the plan that they presented to you that gave you the confidence to think, okay, they can get me back to where I was? And then also, how did the shutdown during the pandemic, maybe how were you able to use that to your advantage?
Well, I can give a little bit about my conversation with the Dodgers. There was a lot of conversations that only convinced me to be here. The first and foremost was, we're not concerned about running you out there for 60, 70 games. This is before a shortened season, obviously. They said our biggest thing is we want Blake to be great for us late in the year and in the playoffs. We want Blake to be healthy, to have a long career. And when they said that, they were the only team that said that to me. There was other teams that, maybe there's a handful of other teams that were committed to making me healthy for long term, but a lot of them was, how can we get you in and have success right now? And so when they laid it out that, hey, it's more about, like, our concerns with you and your family, your future, and we're not going to rush you into anything. We've got a plan to, like, maybe step you through this. Like, that was huge, because I did have some lingering issues in regards to my back recovery. Like, it just had to have time. Time, was the biggest friend of my recovery. And when they said, we don't need you the first month, it would be great if you're able to, but, like, we're not going to rush you into it. There was like 4 teams that said that to me, and that was important. But the process started to narrow. Like, then it became 3 teams and 2 teams, and then really, like, late in the conversation, it just kind of narrowed down to LA, because they were so convincing to me, and only speaking truth as this whole process has played out, is like everything they said was honest and true, and they've been nothing but a blessing to my family, myself, my career, and yeah, I think in regards to the pandemic layoff, it just gave me more time. I felt like I would have been ready to go from day one in the season, the way my back was responding. Spring training was probably the healthiest that I've felt since my rookie year.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks, everybody.